Hey everybody, it's Professor Lee. Over the next few videos, I want to show you the basics of how to start recording audio into Logic. In previous projects, we've mostly been working with software instruments where we play things in on a MIDI keyboard, but now we want to be able to record vocals in through a microphone. So in the first video, I'll show you how to set up the settings inside of Logic to do that. In the second video, we'll walk through some actual recording and then some editing in order to punch in and correct mistakes. And in the third video, I'll take you through some of the basic plugins like EQ, compression, and reverb that we use to take our audio recording and make it a well-produced sound that'll fit well into our demo. Let's get started. I've already put together a simple piano backing track, and now what I want to do is just record a lead vocal on top of it. We want to get into some good habits along the way, so the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start by saving. I'll come here, and I'll either save or save as. I'll give myself a location where I can find it easily here on the desktop. And then I want to make sure that I'm saving it as a folder and that I've checked to include audio files in my saved folder. What this will do is it makes sure that everything I record gets saved into an audio folder in my project folder, so that as I move my project from computer to computer, everything I've recorded comes along with me. Once I've got my project saved, let's start by adding an audio track. I'll come up here to plus, which lets me add new tracks. And then rather than add a software instrument track, which is mostly what we've been using so far, I'm going to click over and I'm going to select an audio recording track. This lets me record things in with a microphone that's attached to an audio interface. I'll leave all these settings as they are for right now, and I'll just hit create. And you can see that I've got a new track loaded up here called Audio 1. The next thing we want to do is we want to make sure that Logic is actually listening to the microphone that we're singing into. We can have multiple audio interfaces and multiple pathways in and out of the computer for audio. Things as simple as the speakers in our laptop versus our Bluetooth headphones versus headphones that are plugged into our audio interface. And microphones, same thing. We have a built-in microphone. We may have a Bluetooth microphone on our headset or our earbuds, or we may have a physical microphone plugged into an audio interface. And we need to tell Logic which one of those we want to be listening to and recording in our project. We do that by going up here to Preferences, Audio. Inside of Audio Preferences, we can control which audio interface or which pathway in and out of the computer Logic is paying attention to. In this case, I have an audio interface called an SSL2 that my microphone is plugged into, and that's what I want Logic listening to when it's recording. And then I'm using a piece of software here called Loopback that helps me route the audio into these tutorial videos. Normally, our input and output would be set to the same device. But in this case, I'm going to send the output from Logic into Loopback Audio for the sake of this tutorial. Let's talk a little bit about this I/O buffer size number. I'm going to set it to 256, which is a pretty good place to start. When this number gets higher, the computer is able to do more processing. It can handle more plugins, it can do more complex things, but the trade-off for that is it takes longer. It buffers the audio on the way in and on the way out. So you'll hear a slight delay between when you play something on a MIDI keyboard and when that audio comes out of the speakers, or when you sing into a microphone and it comes back through your headphones. The lower we set this number, the faster the turnaround time, the less buffering there is, but as a result, the more the computer has to work to do the job you're asking it to do. Start with 256. If the delay bothers you, pick a lower number. If your computer starts choking up and overloading, pick a higher number. When we've made all of our changes, we'll come down here and hit apply. Once I've done that, I'm going to hit the R here on my audio track to record enable it. And that means it's going to start actively listening to the microphone I have plugged in. On my audio interface, I'll turn my gain up until I'm getting a pretty reasonable level. I'll try singing the loudest part of the song, and what I want to see is the meter mostly in the green, but touching up a little bit into yellow. I don't ever want to see any red, or I don't want to see this number go to 0. If I do, it means I've scorched my audio. I've clipped it and distorted it on the way in. There's two other settings I want to take a look at. The first is, let's make sure that we have 1 bar of count in. And then let's make sure that our metronome is not in simple mode. We want to set it so that it clicks while recording and not only during the count in. Some of you may know this is Logic's default setting, is to only give a count off during the count in. And it makes no real sense to me why they do that. But this is how we want to operate. Whenever we hit record, we want click going the whole way through the recording. Your vocalist will probably want to hear themselves in their own headphones while they're singing. And there's two ways to do that. Your audio interface may have a knob that lets you control the blend between the microphone signal and the playback signal. And if so, that's usually the best way to build a mix for your vocalist. If your audio interface doesn't have that option, then in the software we can hit this I button. And when we do, it will turn on input monitoring, and then our vocalist will be able to hear their own voice back through their headphones. Now, this may create some delay between what they're singing and what they hear back. That's where controlling our buffer size number will help us make a more comfortable listening experience for our vocalist. But in either case, make sure your vocalist has what they need in order to deliver their performance. And then in the next video, we'll start recording our audio.